Get him away from the front. He does not look like a billionaire. That was the first thing the event manager hissed, sharp and careless, as the short man in a plain gray suit stepped into the ballroom. The words were not meant for him, but they were loud enough to reach him anyway. A few people snickered. Others pretended they did not hear. And the man, carrying a small worn briefcase, kept walking like he had walked through worse storms than this. The charity gala was a sea of diamonds and polished smiles. A luxury hotel ballroom with tall windows, gold lights, and tables dressed in white. The air smelled of perfume, fresh flowers, and expensive food. The city's elite were there to celebrate a new partnership between a global tech company and a local foundation. Everything about the night screamed power, except the man who had just arrived. His name was Li Wei. He was the CEO of a Chinese tech empire that had quietly bought a large stake in the foundation's future projects. The staff had been told to expect him. His face was on a printed profile behind the podium, yet nobody in the room recognized him, because the stories they had in their head did not match what their eyes saw. Li Wei did not wear a shiny watch. His suit was clean but simple. Shoes were scuffed at the edge. He looked calm, almost gentle. The kind of person people mistake for harmless, because he does not carry noise around him. He stood at the entrance for a moment, taking in the room. He noticed the glances that slid over him. He noticed the quick judgments. He noticed the way a few men in bright tuxedos leaned closer and laughed under their breath. They thought he was a translator, a driver, a helper who had wandered in by mistake. A hostess moved toward him fast, smile locked on. Her voice was sweet but hard underneath. "Sir, the service entrance is around the side. Guests enter through the main doors." She pointed, even though he was standing at the main doors. She wanted him to understand his place without saying the worst part out loud. Li Wei nodded politely. He had learned long ago that pride is a loud companion, and loud companions make you lose focus. He stepped aside to let a group of donors sweep past him, their perfume trailing like a fence. A tall man brushed his shoulder without apology. A woman whispered to her friend that he must be lost. Their laughter floated behind them like smoke. Li Wei felt none of it on his face. But inside, he felt an old memory stir. He had grown up in a factory town near Suzhou, where the mornings smelled of coal and steamed buns. His father worked long shifts in a textile plant, hands cracked from chemical water. His mother sold vegetables at dawn. When Li Wei was 12, he used to walk her cart to the market, feeling the cold metal bar bite into his palm. He still remembered that dull ache, the way hunger makes you strong and tired at the same time. He grew up learning two things. First, that the world will ignore you unless you build a reason for it to listen. Second, that dignity is not given by others. It is made inside you and carried out through your choices. He studied under streetlights when the power went out, fixed radios for neighbors to earn tuition, got into a top university, and slept on a thin mattress in a room full of boys who had never been hungry. People mocked his accent when he first learned English. Teachers assumed he was quiet because he did not understand. He let them assume. He kept working. By 30, he was leading a small team building software for supply chains. By 40, his company had changed how half of Asia moved goods. By 50, he had become one of the richest men in China. Still, he ate simply. Still, he traveled without drama. He never needed the costume of wealth to feel its weight. Tonight, he was supposed to be honored as the key investor behind the foundation's new hospitals and education hubs, but he had arrived alone, early, and without a brand around him.
Ow.
The room made its own story. The event manager, a man named Carter, spotted him near the entrance and walked over with a tight smile. "Sir, this area is reserved for sponsors." Li Wei nodded again, reached into his pocket, and pulled out a plain invitation card. Carter glanced at it, barely reading, and waved a hand dismissively. "That's fine, but your seat is in the back. Please don't stand in the sponsor lane." He said it like a rule, not like a kindness. Li Wei was about to step aside when a server passed near them with a tray of glasses. A young black waitress, maybe mid-20s, slim and fast, moved with practiced balance. Her name tag read Nia. She had been working since noon, feet aching, shoulders tight, smile steady because that was the job. As she crossed, her eyes flicked toward Li Wei's face. Something in her expression changed very slightly. Not shock, recognition. Like a door opening in her mind. She slowed. She looked again. Then she spoke, clear and calm, in perfect Mandarin. The sentence was simple. CEO Li, you are here. Welcome. I can take you to your seat. The air around them tightened instantly. Carter blinked, confused. He turned to look at Li Wei's face again, as if the man had just transformed. The hostess froze mid-step. A nearby donor stopped talking. Two men holding drinks turned fully toward them. The soft music in the room didn't change, but the mood did. It shifted like a weight dropping on a table. Li Wei looked at Nia with a gentle surprise. Then he smiled, small and real. He said back, quiet and warm. You speak Chinese? Nia nodded, eyes steady. She had learned Mandarin in college while working. 2 jobs, not because it was trendy, because her grandmother used to say that language is a bridge into a world that might not expect you there. Nia loved bridges. She loved proving to herself that she could enter any room with skill, not permission. Li Wei's shoulders relaxed in a way nobody else noticed, not because he needed saving, because respect, when it arrives in a room full of judgment, feels like fresh air, Carter stammered. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. He tried to laugh it off, tried to shrink the moment into a harmless mix-up, but Li Wei did not need the apology for himself. He needed the room to learn. He turned slightly, voice still calm. It is okay, many. People do not recognize value when it walks in quietly. The line landed softly, but it hit hard. Nia gestured toward the center tables. Li Wei followed her through the crowd. Heads turned as they walked. Whispering spread. Phones came out, not for drama, but for proof. The donors who had laughed earlier now straightened their posture. The woman who had called him lost pressed, her lips tight. The tall man who had bumped him stared at the floor. They reached the front table where a gold card sat under a spotlight. Li Wei, honorary chair and lead investor. The name was printed in bold letters. Nia pulled the chair back. For him, her hands were steady. She did not bow. She did not overdo the respect. She treated him like a human being with worth, not a myth. Li Wei sat down. He looked up at the stage where his photo was already waiting. He looked back at the crowd, now watching him like schoolchildren who had misread the lesson. Carter hurried. Away, face red, whispering to staff. The foundation director rushed over, panic and joy mixed together, apologizing too loudly. Li Wei lifted a hand gently, stopping the flood. Let us continue the night, he said. This event is for the people we are here to help. The director nodded, grateful for the rescue. The music resumed its place in the room. Conversation started again, but quieter now, softer around the edges. As if everyone was walking carefully over new understanding. Later, on stage, the director introduced Li Wei as the man whose investment would build clinics in poor neighborhoods, fund scholarships, and bring clean water to rural schools. The crowd rose in applause with hands that were now eager to look respectful. Li Wei thanked them with few words. He spoke about partnership, about humility, about giving with a clean heart. Then he did something unexpected. He asked Nia to stand. The room went still again. He said that before tonight, many people saw only a server carrying glasses. But she carried something bigger. She carried respect when nobody else did. She carried knowledge that surprised a room, full of assumptions. He said the future belongs to people who learn across borders and treat others with dignity, even when it costs them nothing. Nia stood there, cheeks warm, eyes bright, trying not to cry. She had come to work a shift. She had ended up changing a room. The applause this time felt different, less performative, more real. People clapped for her, but also for the mirror she'd held up to them. When the night ended, Li Wei walked toward the exit. Many people approached him with smiles that now looked humble. He shook hands politely, but his eyes searched for one face. He found Nia near the service door, rubbing her feet, tired and quiet. He thanked her again in Mandarin. She thanked him back. It's a simple human standing in the same hallway, equal in. That moment, the world had tried to dismiss him because he did not fit their picture of power. The world had tried to overlook her because she wore a uniform instead of a title. And yet both of them proved the same truth without raising their voices. Never trust a room that judges value by noise, never mistake quiet for small, and never forget. That respect can change a story faster than money ever will. If this story stayed with you, comment where you were watching from and what part hit your heart. Subscribe for more stories that remind us how strong quiet dignity can be.